Okay, this is take two. I tried to do this earlier on my laptop. My laptop kept screwing up on me, so no problem. I'm just going to use my trusty Apple iPad. I feel weird using this because I just got done watching this documentary yesterday that was free on YouTube called The Planet of the Humans, where they talked about Apple and they're not really using green energy necessarily. So the documentary, very interesting. I think it's a little popular, I'm not sure, but it talks about all these green companies. But what they practice is a lot of deforestation. They chop down a lot of trees and forests all over the place, use those wood chips to emote energy. I'm talking about like solar energy, wind energy, all that stuff. Those wood chips power these things. So it's renewable energy in the sense that the trees do grow back, but it takes sometimes decades for those trees to go back, and you're just kind of screwing up the forest. And now they're even trying to do it with like seaweed and deserts and things like that. And I don't want to be one of those people that talk like I know everything about the environment. I know the basics, so I would like to do some research on that stuff so I can eloquently talk to you guys about it, because right now I just am not in the position to do that. But I wanted to talk about this video about political thought. First of all, I hope everyone's quarantining all right. Again, this COVID-19 stuff does not care what your political affiliation is. If you get it, you're going to get sick, and it's going to be a struggle. Just ask the Prime Minister of the UK. Just ask Rand Paul. These guys are not having fun at the moment, right? Because this COVID is the real deal. Anyway, I digress. Back to political thought. So one of the most common prevailing things I hear from a lot of conservatives is that they are afraid to say they are Trump supporters because they don't want to be judged. Being a Republican, they can't say how they really feel, because if they do, they will be judged and harshly, and the mainstream media and people in general discriminate against MAGAs and Trump supporters. So yeah, they are a discriminated bunch, are they? They feel like they are, these victims of discrimination. I mean, I've been watching the news and hearing people like these protesters saying they feel like slaves. You know what I'm saying? Really, motherfucker? You feel like slaves? You don't know you obviously haven't thoroughly read your history books, because the stuff that slaves went through is stuff that none of us would be able to go through, right? Is your wife being raped by, liberals? Is that happening? I don't think so. Are you being made to work for free, and your payment at the end of the day is some chitlins and, collard greens that grow in the garden? Yeah, so don't, if you want your arguments to be listened to, or your thoughts to be listened to, at least make them have common sense. You want to protest and get yourself in danger and give people COVID and give yourself COVID, that's one thing. If you want to use dumbass reasoning to do that, that's another thing. But anyway, here we go. So I wanted to read this article about that kind of illustrates a little bit of what I'm talking about, by Antonio Sabato Jr. So Antonio Sabato Jr., if you don't know who he is, on a good day, He's a C-level actor. On any other day of the week, he's a pretty boy nobody. He immigrated from Rome, Italy, to the United States of America because back in the day, he was a pretty boy. He's still kind of pretty. I'm sure a lot of girls might still like him. But he was able to get work. He was in a Janet Jackson video. I think it was Love Will Never Do Without You. I'm not sure. One where she looks real pretty and it's black and white and stuff. But anyway, Antonio Sabato Jr. So I'm pulling this up from the droid. Antonio Sabato Jr. was one of the few actors who publicly supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election. His candidate won, but his career in Hollywood ended. Now, we're going to get to the root of why his career might have ended. I don't really know. He says it's because he was a Trump supporter. Let's read on, shall we? I had to sell everything, Sabato reveals in a phone interview with Variety from his new home in Florida. So he went to the mothership, basically. California was a little too liberal for him, and he, flew back home to the mothership in Florida to be with his fellow MAGAs, I suppose. So, had to sell everything. All my representatives left me, from agents to managers to commercial agents. I literally had to move, find a job to survive, and take care of my kids. It's been terrible. It's been mind-blowing. It's been a disgrace. It's tough because if you're in that environment in Hollywood and you have something to say that they don't like, they're going to let you know. All right. So despite a 30-year career as an actor, Sabato claims he couldn't line up any new roles after the election. He alleges that he was cut from reality TV competition series because of his political beliefs. In 2018, he attempted an unsuccessful run for congressional seat in California, where he was defeated by a Democrat. So he tried to run for the Ventura County congressional seat against my homegirl, Julia Brownlee. She didn't even take that dude serious because he's nobody to take serious. He's a nobody pretty boy actor. And she treated that, excuse me. So I'm sneezing now because of the COVID. I don't want to get things on my hands, although I'm going to wash my hands as soon as this is done. But anyway, she treated that election like she was running against a pretty boy. She didn't treat that election seriously because she knew she didn't have to. I was almost a little bit concerned after the Trump election because Ventura is a purple county. I would say it's a little more blue than red, but, in the Trumpian environment, you just never know. So you always want to, in the Trumpian era, rather, you just never know. So you kind of want to be careful with that stuff. She treated that like, hey, it's a doofus. She's had that seat for a long time. So if that's the best the Republicans had, and all the nuts voted for him. That's how he was able to get past the primaries and on the main ticket in the Republican Party. They really, really overshot their load with that. But anyway, so shortly after that, Antonio Sabato, 47, decided to relocate his family to Florida. So after he failed at running for office, he decided that he wanted to go to Florida and move to a redder area where his dumb thoughts would be taken more seriously. An immigrant from Italy who came to the United States as a model in the 85. Didn't always vote Republican. He supported Bill Clinton, but, you know, became a MAGA for some reason. He supported both of his presidential bids, and he didn't consider himself socially conservative, blah, blah, blah. So a lot more of this is just stuff. So at the end of the article, he says, let me get to that part. I always hope there's some serious people out there that want to hire me for talent. He says, I rarely talked politics on the set. That's the last thing I do. The country is doing fantastic. I think he'll be elected by 100 million votes this time around, is what he says. And he doesn't regret his support for Trump. And, you know, I mean, if you support the motherfucker, you might as well go all in, right? I mean, that's just how it's got to be. You know, you can't backtrack now. You lost your whole career over this dude, right? So, but that's what we're really debating right now. Did he lose his career because he's a Trump supporter? Or did he lose his career because he's a talentless hack that said a bunch of stupid shit? And yeah, that's it. I think it's a little bit more of the latter. I don't want to say he's a talentless hack. I mean, work in construction is important work. So if you can do that work, then you do have talent in that regards. Acting ability, I think the limits of his acting ability was being on Bold and the Beautiful and that reality show that he was on. I don't even know the name of it. But I think that's where his talents lie. He is in one movie that I love from the 90s called The Big Hit. I think that's what it's called, with Marky Mark, Mark Wahlberg, and Avery Brooks is in it. Bokeem Woodbine is in it, and Lou Diamond Phillips is in it. I love that movie, man. Anytime I see it on TV, I stop and watch it just because it's so, like, funny and stuff. It's not like a Academy Award cinematic masterpiece, but it's a fun movie to watch. And Antonio Sabato Jr. is like the least important person in that movie. He's just there to kind of add to the pretty boy dynamics. There's a shower scene where all the actors are like showing their ass in the shower or whatever. Not a shower scene. That makes it sound like a gay porn. It's a locker room scene where they're all like in there showing their behinds and stuff. And I think he was put in that movie for those sole purposes, right? But here's the thing with those thoughts, those conservative thoughts. There's a reason why jobs have very low tolerance for it's like sexual harassment and stuff like that, and racial harassment. A lot of jobs have zero tolerance policies on that. They're not mainstream ideals for a reason, because those thoughts were driven underground a while back, and thanks to Trump, a lot of them have kind of resurfaced to the point where it's just very overt, where people were once afraid to kind of say, hey, I am a xenophobe, or I think Mexicans should go back to Mexico because they come to our country and rape our women and stuff like that. Back in the day, people wouldn't say things like that. They might think them, but they don't say it out loud because they know those thoughts are not mainstream. And they know that that stuff is frowned upon, as it should be frowned upon. I am not one of those people that think that, because I've heard people say, well, at least with MAGAs, you know where they stand, or, You know, you can't get mad at somebody for letting you know how they feel and all this other stuff. And on some level, it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you are a MAGA that is homophobic and xenophobic, and if you believe that it's okay to lock kids up in cages, if you believe that the Parkland school shootings and things like that were a hoax, I'm not saying Sabato Jr. believes that. I'm just saying if that's your general way of thinking, if you think Barack Obama is a Muslim, which Antonio Sabato did say, if you think Maxine Waters should be put in jail, which I'm looking at my laptop, which Antonio Sabato Jr. did say, then your thoughts do belong underground, because you are a nut at this point, right? If you're saying, like, that group from a couple of years ago that were saying hail Trump and doing the Nazi thing, they should not feel as comfortable as they feel spouting off that bullshit. They just shouldn't. I'm of the belief that if you have troubling thoughts like that, you should not feel pride in those thoughts. There should be a degree of, man, maybe I shouldn't say that around these people because these thoughts are just not necessarily it. The reason why you feel ashamed of yourself or ashamed of saying that stuff is because you know those thoughts are fucking backwards and you don't care, right? And you still think them. Which you can think them if you express those thoughts out loudly. There are consequences for it. Back to Sabato Jr. He's got no talent, man. He's not the greatest actor on the planet. I've seen The Big Hit. He didn't do anything in that. Bold and the Beautiful, it's not a soap I watch, but again, that's where he's doing. Reality shows, that's where you belong, player. You're doing what you're doing. You were doing your life's work and you got fired from that. Like Jon Voight, I don't love Jon Voight's politics. He's a dork, but he's still great on Ray Donovan. I'll admit that much. And, you know, he finds work okay, even thinking as backwards as he thinks. Clint Eastwood's a little left of center when it comes to his political thoughts. He still finds work. James Woods, definitely don't like James Woods' stupid thoughts. He's another one of those idiots like Sabato Jr. But the difference between him and Sabato Jr. is talent. All three of those. James Woods, I don't like him, but he's talented. Jon Voight, not a fan, but he's talented. You know what I'm saying? That's what separates these guys. Clint Eastwood, don't love his politics, but he's great at making movies, which is all I want from that fool. So, you know, if you're saying Barack Obama is a Muslim and you're weaponizing it as to make people fear Muslims, because one, Barack Obama is a Christian, not that it really matters to me, but you know, you're calling him a Muslim because you know you can weaponize that to get people against him. You're saying Maxine Waters should be in jail because you do not like her, and she is an older black woman, and you are making judgments about the area of Los Angeles that she runs over, the congressional area that she runs over. And you're saying outrageous, stupid shit. That is why nobody wants to listen to you. That is why you're not getting jobs. Because one, you ain't got no talent. And two, you ain't got no talent. And you are saying stupid fucking shit. Okay? So, Yeah, and you got to understand that if you can be a Trump supporter all day long, but when you start getting into these rants and you start letting that stuff manifest, it goes from your head out of your mouth onto camera. Now that's a problem, because most people don't think like that. Most people are a little bit more reasonable, and a lot of those people, even if they do think like that, they know those are horrible thoughts to have, and that they probably shouldn't express them to anybody, because it might be a little goddamn stupid. So that's all I wanted to say. Your thoughts matter when they come out of your mouth and they come out loud. When you're dealing with MAGAs, you shouldn't feel like they should not feel comfortable with a lot of the views that they have, because again, those are antiquated underground thoughts that do not deserve to see the light of day. But Donald Trump has brought them back to the forefront, and now we're having to deal with this. So I plan on, we're still going to do that panel. I got to get together with Rory Gibbs and Alex Green, or not Alex Green, that's his brother. I'm talking about Richard Green, Dr. Richard Green, to talk about this COVID stuff. So hopefully you guys have found this video well. You gave me 22 minutes of your time, it looks like. So I appreciate you. I'll do another one of these later on in the week. Peace out, stay safe, and make sure you social distance. All right, peace.